Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Penn Engineering Online's admissions webinar, and we're happy to see so many of you today. We are going to be focusing on our MCIT Online program, which is our Masters of Computer and Information Technology program. And let me start by introducing myself. My name is Jacquie Panto. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions for Penn Engineering Online. And my job, along with the rest of the admissions team, is to help potential students. We help them to learn about our programs. We help them to learn about our online community. And we also help them to learn about the admissions and the application process. With me today, we have a very special guest with us. We have Professor Tom Farmer, and he is the MCIT Online Program Director, and he also teaches in the program as well. He teaches one of the core courses in the MCIT program. So he's here to really get into the specifics about the program. He'll talk about the program details. He'll talk about who this program's designed for. He'll talk a little bit about the career outcomes, the curriculum. He'll even get into some discussion about his program that he teaches, and then he'll also talk how the courses are structured and give you a little bit detail into that. Then I'll turn the presentation back over to me, and I'm going to talk a lot about the resources that are available to our students, how you get involved in the community, and then I'll also spend some time on the all-important application, the application elements, and all the dates and the deadlines. So we have lots of information to go over with you today. So we're gonna get started. So before I actually dive into the details of the presentation, I just wanted to go over some webinar useful information. So number one, we are being recorded. There's no need to worry about taking notes or if you miss something, you can go back and watch this webinar. And in fact, if you go to our YouTube channel, we actually have all of our past webinars that are housed on that YouTube channel. So you can go and you can watch past webinars, and they're really a valuable resource when you want to learn about our programs and learn about the admissions process. So I highly recommend you go back and take a look at that library. If you have questions today, we want you to use the Q&A function on the Zoom toolbar. So use that Q&A function, type your question out. We have about 3 or 4 people from admissions that are behind the scenes, and they're going to be working really hard to answer all of your questions. They'll type those answers back, and then they'll also give us some questions, because at the very end, Professor Farmer and I will answer some questions live. We'll save a lot of time towards the end of the presentation to answer questions live, but also questions will be answered in that Q&A function. So our goal today is to try to get all of your questions answered. So let me start by talking a little bit about, I know you're all probably at a different point. You're either, in your fact-finding stage and learning about our programs, or maybe you started the application. But a lot of you are probably, maybe looking at different programs in different schools out there. So what is it about Penn Engineering Online that makes us unique, that makes us so special, or makes us even great for that matter? So let's talk about that a little bit. So number one, I'd say the number one reason is our faculty. Our online students learn from the same faculty, the same world-renowned faculty that teaches in our on-campus program. So you are not going to be learning from different faculty. You'll be learning from the same faculty that teaches in our also successful on-campus programs. All of those faculty members have office hours, so you'll definitely have a chance to interact with faculty members. The next reason has to do with our asynchronized courses. There's nothing that is synchronous. There's no course or lecture that you have to attend live. Everything is asynchronous, completely online. You watch the lectures when it fits into your schedule. In addition to that, you create your own flexible schedule. So you can alternate between full-time and part-time within the program. So perhaps one semester, you're not real busy at your job, you're not real busy with work, and maybe you can take a full-time load, you'll take 3 courses, and then perhaps the next semester maybe is a busy time for you at work, so you might cut down to 1 or 2 courses. So you can switch between full and part-time, and you decide how many courses that you take each semester. It makes it extremely flexible, and it really allows those individuals who are working full-time it enables them to also do this program as well. And a good majority of our students are working full-time professionals as well. The thing to keep in mind with that, we do require our students to take courses in the fall and in the spring, but the summer is optional. So that's another point of flexibility about our program. You do not need to take courses in the summer, but we do offer a good amount of courses in the summer. So if you want to kind of stay on track or if you want to kind of get ahead, you also have the summer to help you out with that as well. And then the last reason that we've narrowed down to that makes Penn Engineering Online so unique and so special is our community. And that's the fourth reason. We have an incredible community, and not just a community of students, but we have a community of faculty members, students, staff, everybody who is willing to help each other out and to help our students to reach their goals. So you're going to see, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, you'll get a good feel for our robust community and you'll see how collaborative it is. It's really, really a unique community. You are not out there alone, and we provide you with a ton of resources so that you can get involved with that community. So those are really our four main points of difference. And what I want to do is I'm going to turn it over to Professor Farmer, and he will bring you through the MCIT program. So Tom, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Jackie. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming for today's webinar. I am Tom Farmer, the director of the program. And just to give you a little background about myself, I am an instructor and the director of the program. I'm instructor for the course 5930. That's Introduction to Computer Systems, which I'll talk about in a little while, some details about that course. But it's basically a course that introduces you to a CPU, and it's kind of a discussion on how hardware and software meet. It's one of my favorite courses to teach. And the reason that I teach this course is because of the background that I have. So when I was in college, I went for a degree in computer science. And then when I graduated, I did a couple of summer internships throughout college for AT&T Labs. And then I went to work there full time for about 7 years as a programmer. And I moved up from junior to sort of senior, and then finally to like a head programmer there. At the same time, I was actually working on my master's degree at night in computer science, and I tried to do it online, but it was a while back. As you can see, my degree was earned in 2002. And while the internet was great, it wasn't, the bandwidth just wasn't there yet to, to watch, to actually stream video and such in a good way. So they used to send videotapes back and forth, and it was just horrible. And I always thought to myself, man, if I ever had the chance to do make a course, it could be so much better. So I'm in love with this program that we have, because it sort of answered all of my dreams for an online program and the way it could be. Also loved writing software, loved my degree. They advanced me a bit when I got my master's degree. And then I kind of came to a crossroads in my career, and I thought, well, I could continue, just my master's and be done, and work. Or I really was always in the back of my head kind of thinking I'd like to go back for a PhD. And I finally, after finishing my master's, thought, should I go back for a computer science PhD or a computer engineering PhD? And the difference being between software and essentially hardware. And I felt like I knew a good amount about software at that point, but I really wanted to learn about the hardware. And so I could potentially get another master's in it, but I thought that was a lot of stuff to try to figure out, because I didn't really have the background, and I knew I'd have to do a lot of undergraduate work. So I decided to go full time. I quit my job, proposed to my wife, got married, packed up from New Jersey, and went to Washington, D.C., where I started my PhD. It was a little bit older. I was 27 years old for, students that were in the program that was older. And I worked to get my PhD, and I earned it in 2010 in computer engineering. And then I also did research work for a while as a postdoc at the U.S. Army Research Lab. And then I found a position at Penn in 2012. And along that time, my wife and I were married. She finished her medical school training. I finished my PhD. And then we had our daughters. We have Eleanor and Molly. Eleanor's the older one, and Molly's the younger. And we're still enjoying every minute of them, even though they're a bit older now, 14 and 11. But they're the joys of our life. So that's a little bit about me and my background. And the next question, of course, that comes up is, if you're on this webinar, you're asking, is this for me, right? Who is this program geared, towards? And it depends. It depends on the answer to a couple of questions. Do you want to get into the tech industry? Maybe you want to make a major seismic shift. You're not in the tech industry, but you want to acquire the skills to do that. With MCIT, you can gather all of the fundamentals of computer science. The main courses in the program, will give you really the bulk of what you need from an undergraduate degree just at the graduate level. And it's geared towards beginners that don't have any information, in that world. And so we can very successfully help you move from whatever career you might be in into a full-on computer science career. Also, some people, have some background already in computer science. They're self-taught. Maybe for their work, they've taken some boot camps, to learn some programming really fast to help them with something. And those are perfect, that's a perfect thing, perfect person to come to our program as well. And it kind of helps fill in what's probably been missing if you were just doing boot camps and sort of self-discovery, kind of, get some more formal degree. We give you all the underlying background that you might not have gotten a chance to have in maybe a boot camp, because they simply just don't have enough time in the boot camp domain, but they're wonderful courses to do. And then the other thing is maybe you just want to enhance, your existing career. You want to add a little bit of computer science to it. Maybe, you're in accounting, but you think, I could really, if I could just write software, I could write something that is so much better than this. And so, maybe you're just trying to gather that kind of experience. And so, certainly any version of that, that's who MCIT Online is for, whether you really want to make a complete career switch. Maybe you're just self-taught and you really just want to make sure you really understand all this material, or maybe you're just trying to make, enhance your existing, situation. So I think any one of those types of backgrounds is perfectly appropriate for us. So I think that hopefully kind of gives some light. A little bit more about MCIT Online. Of course, you know a bit about it if you're here, at least you're curious about it. It is really it is a first of its kind graduate level degree that was specifically made for people that don't have a computer science background. And that's kind of a huge deal, because usually, if you go to try to do a master's degree, they always say, okay, you can apply and we'll probably accept you if you have knowledge in a related area. But this program does not require that. We really don't need you to, or even really, not want you to, but we don't need you to have any computer science background. Just a little bit of a math background, like a little bit of algebra, is usually enough. But that's kind of the fundamental piece of building the MCIT Online program, was with folks like that in mind. The knowledge that that you'll earn through the degree is really truly the same as a traditional computer science program. But again, we give you that little bit more background that you wouldn't have to get you up to speed to be able to succeed in a computer science degree. Again, it's designed for, any major, like coming from any background, as long as you have your undergraduate degree. But a little bit of a proof of quantitative ability is necessary. That's why we always love to see people with like a nice algebra background, or, maybe you've taken the GREs and you really scored beautifully on the quantitative section. That's enough for us, right? We at that point say, okay, this person can handle the rigor of the program, and we can teach them the rest. So that's usually the main background is, your undergraduate degree and some type of proof of quantitative ability. And then in terms of, just the basic shell, knowing about it, most master's degrees are 10 courses. This is no exception. We have 6 core courses that are required, and we think that those 6 courses really represent the fundamentals of computer science. And then you can choose 4 electives, and those 4 electives can be anything in our program. And the beauty of it is you can kind of start to specialize a little bit with these electives. If you think to yourself, well, I really love computer science in general, but I'm really interested in AI. You'll now have the 6 courses as your background, and then you can maybe pick 4 courses that are really, dedicated to AI and give you a lot of specialized training in that area. Or if you're interested in, computer security and network security, we have a pathway through the electives for that. We have all sorts of pathways through the electives. And so you can build your own. And there's no specific path. You could just take 4 of them that are very interesting to you, like you could make a nice broad understanding of some advanced topics. So that's kind of MCIT Online in a nutshell. Now, the next question is, of course, once you complete the program, what do I do? What are your career outcomes? Like, what can I, expect to do at the end of it? Well, one, as we said, you could roll this into your existing, career and just have more knowledge, and that, that's a fine thing to do. A lot of people do that. Alternatively, you will have enough computer science skills at that point to truly break into the tech industry. So if you're interested in being a software engineer, a systems engineer, software developer, even an intelligence engineer, if you have enough AI background from our program, from the electives, those are definitely, 4 major roles that you could absolutely, walk into after completing the degree. So a software engineer is sort of the person that's designing software, like the infrastructure for it. A software developer might be the person that's, writing code a bit more, that's following the software engineer's lead. The systems engineers are the folks that kind of come up with requirements for systems. And an intelligence engineer is someone who's working on architecting an AI system as well as writing code for it. So those are 4 very powerful roles that you can absolutely, you'll have the credentials to apply for that type of role. As we said, you might just be interested in developing computer science skills to advance your own, career in your own or existing industry. And so, maybe portfolio manager, educator, project manager, or product manager, maybe in a fintech world, all of those, certainly these days require a lot more computer science skill than they used to. And so that's a really wonderful skill set, to add in. And through 10 courses in computer science, you would really be, stand out amongst your peers with that kind of a background. So, third sort of possible outcome, kind of like myself when I was going for my master's degree, was developing enough computer science skills to, then have a master's degree to apply for a PhD, maybe in computer science or something related to it. But yeah, these are 3 definite, definitely possible outcomes, ones that have been successfully, paths that have been followed by our MCIT Online graduates already. So I think those are some pretty decent outcomes. I think covers most everything you might want. As I said, there are 10 total courses that one takes to complete the program. The 6 courses on the left, 591, 592, 593, 594, 595, 596. Nice and easy. The course numbers, you can't go wrong. It's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you'll have it. But these represent the 6 pieces that we believe are like the pinnacle, or the foundation rather, of computer science. Certainly 5910, that one's all about just, writing software. What is software exactly? Like, where does, how do we define it? And then how do we program software? How do we solve problems with software development? 592 is a wonderful course. Sometimes people are scared because, it's math, and maybe it's been a little while since you've taken some math courses, but it's done in such a way to like bring you in, no matter what your background is at that point, and bring you up to speed on the pieces of math from your background already, that, we concentrate them and sort of apply them, see how they'll be used in computer science moving forward. So it'll give you the mathematical underpinning for all the courses that you'll need going further. Then there's my course, as I said, 593 is my course. That's an introduction to computing systems. And that is just a course where we're talking about how hardware and software, marry one another. How do they interact, and how do they meet? And what exactly is the hardware of a computer? And so that's a solid course that really kind of tries to tie those 2 big concepts together. And with my personal background in hardware and software, that's why I love the course. And it really is just that simple of a goal with that course, is to explain the marriage of the two. Data structures and software design in 594, beautiful course. Everyone takes a course like it. It really tells you how you organize data in a computer program and how it all works together, and then kind of the bigger picture of how to design pieces of software that then you can go out and code as well. Certainly 595 is a computer systems programming. That's kind of the answer to 593, like the second part of it, where you start to talk about what a computer operating system is, and what does that even mean? What is an operating system? Like, we know Windows and Mac OS, but what's underneath all that stuff? That's in 595. And then 596, algorithms and computation. That's all about, what are the best ways to write, programs that solve a particular problem? Are there really efficient ways to do it? Are there inefficient ways to do it? So with that course, you really get a good feel for that. And so those are the six. That is the foundation of computer science as we see it. We all got together, all the people in the computer science department, and said, listen, if we were going to pick or make six courses, what would the six courses need to be? And this is the best of our minds coming together to put what we think are the six most important courses in computer science. Now, as I said, the 4 different electives can be so many different things. We have tons of electives now. I don't remember the exact count because we keep adding new courses all the time, which is good. But you really have upwards of like 15, 20 courses at this point, where you can take, if it's something that you're interested in, you can, as I said, sort of specialize a little bit. Like, you can become an AI expert, or you can, go into a software algorithms world and learn a lot, about the foundations of writing complicated software. You can talk about cloud computing technology, or take courses in blockchains, even GPUs. We have a course in that if you're interested in that material. We have a great course in technology ethics. We have all sorts of interesting electives, and they're all taught by the people who have created the course. So you really are interacting with, absolute experts in these areas. And hopefully, if you are interested in one of them, you can even take more of those electives, to complete your 4 electives. So that's our curriculum. And I think it's pretty solid curriculum. This is my course, CIT 593, just because I'm here and I could talk a little bit about the background of it. As I said, it's meant to be this marriage of hardware and software. So we start at the lowest level. We go into what a transistor is. And so if you've heard of these things called transistors, you've heard of Silicon Valley, we try to talk about that, what it is. And then we, each week we try to go up one level. So we start with the lowest level, like, what is a transistor? Then we put a bunch of them together to make something that can do addition and subtraction and multiplication, division, all the most important mathematical operations one needs to do in a computer. We build that, on paper. And then from there, we get to the point where we're actually building a CPU. So we build memory, and we build these things that can add and subtract and store this information. And then we not only build like this virtual CPU, but then once we complete it, and again, it's all virtual, it's on paper that we're doing this work, then, you program it. So we learn how to program our very CPU that we've created. In a machine language is a special language with just the machine. And then we go into assembly, another language, and then we move on to C programming. And that really gets that marriage of high-level software like a C programming language down to these transistors that are underneath. And you kind of really see the connection between that software all the way down to the hardware. So when you write a line of programming code, you really understand like what's happening inside the machine. And that's the goal, of the course. So that's 593, in a quick 1-minute overview of the course. In terms of the course experience, what you should come to expect in any of the courses, not just mine, but in any one of our courses, everyone is on-demand lecture videos. So, you start your week, there'll be, an assignment says, watch this sequence of lecture videos. But unlike being, in class where you maybe sit there for like an hour and a half and you listen straight to a lecture, the beautiful part is all of us instructors worked with a special technology team, a design team, with people that are really excellent at making online courses. Like, this is their whole goal. They're educators themselves. They really understand how to present things to people. And so what they did was we worked with them, for each of us, for about a year to create our online courses. But we made it so that, we took an hour and a half lecture and we distilled it to what was actually really important, like what are the different pieces? And then we chunked it up into like 10-minute segments. And each one you could almost watch them independently of one another, or you can, certainly it helps to do it in sequence. But you can just, click on a topic, you got 10 minutes, you have your phone, you could watch it on the train and then be, fine with just being done with that 10-minute segment. And then when you have more time, go on to another segment until you complete, the lecture video for that week. So that's a really beautiful change. They even optimized the video, for phones and things like that. So it's really geared towards a student that has little time and has windows of opportunity to do things. And this is meant to sort of fill that and meet that demand that we all would like to have. As I said there, and as Jackie said before, there are no real-time sessions. You never have to like join a lecture. You will never be late for something in that way. And that's a beautiful thing, it takes some of that pressure off. I remember when I had to commute for my master's, I was always late. I was trying to get coffee and trying to find parking, and all of that goes away with this program, and it's beautiful. So you get to work on your own, terms and your own pace, week by week. We certainly have discussion forums. Every class has their own, in which all the students are members, and you can basically ask any question you like at any time of day. Each course has so many teaching assistants. We try to keep roughly a 1-to-10 ratio. So every 10 students, there's at least one TA. And those TAs are spread out around the world usually. And so they can answer questions at any time of day and just about any time zone. And so, if you put in a question, you get an answer pretty quick on one of these discussion forums. Plus, students can answer each other's questions. So that's a wonderful thing too. Each course, is a little different on how they assign homework. In my course, I do weekly homeworks. Some courses are more bi-weekly. In that world, there is certainly a deadline for that. So in my course, homework assignments usually due every Monday. And you submit it, remotely. Maybe you're working on paper, you would, take pictures of it and upload it to our website, and then we can grade it from there. Sometimes it's coding assignments, so you can do that all virtually via your computer as well. And then, as I said, everyone access to teaching assistants, but also access to the instructor themselves. Both myself and all my teaching assistants, and this is true for all instructors, we all have weekly office hours that we very much encourage everyone to attend if they can. Mine are, a particular day, like a Friday, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I host them for like an hour, and it's just a big open session. Everyone joins in that can come. And sometimes we talk about homework stuff, and we talk about lecture material, things that need to be, reinforced. We talk about really anything, what's going to be on the midterm, things like that. But we also just kind of talk about what's going on in our lives. So it's usually kind of a nice sort of session where we all get together. And so and teaching assistants, some teaching assistants have like windows of appointments, so you can join like a queue and they'll help you as they go along. Some do open office hours like me. It depends on the teaching assistant, but it's really geared towards giving you as much access to us as possible, and then as much access to materials that really will enrich your experience in the program as well. So I think each course has a nice, like, welcoming feel to it. And certainly any, help that you need along the way, we're very much there to provide that for you. So that's the course experience.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tom. Great information. I just want to add too about the course experience. I think the really great thing about it as well is that even though you have all of this flexibility, like Tom mentioned, in terms of homework assignments and things being due and releasing modules in certain time chunks, there's also structure, because I know that like sometimes we all like that little bit of structure to keep us on track. So I think that's the beauty of this, is that there's a great combination of that flexibility, but that structure too, so that there's check-in points and there's things are going to be due throughout, that 14 weeks of a course, just to kind of keep everybody on track. And I think it's really a nice combination of both, for sure.
Yeah, you're not just sort of left with a mountain of like, oh my God, there's so much stuff to do. No, it's well structured, and you will not have that overwhelmed feeling of material. It's very nice in that way. So thank
Exactly. Great. So let's talk a little bit about one of my favorite subjects is our online student community. We have, I think you're starting to get the feel of that, but we have such an amazing online community, and it's really lots of different factors, lots of different resources. But it's kind of, I wanted to talk about these three areas somewhat quickly, but lots of ways to get involved. And one of the key ways with the MCIT program is that the students themselves within the MCIT program created a association called MOSA, which is MCIT Online Student Association. And this is a student-run association. They have different types of webinars and activities. And again, this is all done virtually, but it's a wonderful way for you to get involved and to meet other online students that are really from around the world and to kind of really get your foot in there and to help others as well. So that's something that we highly recommend. In terms of other events, we host different events. We host networking events. Our career services department holds events and hosts events. Your student advisors, your advising group, they will have different events. If there's a new course or a new process, they'll have us, say a webinar or a meeting to kind of go through all that with you. Of course, we have commencement, we have homecoming, and we also have something called Fall Fest. We invite all of our online students to Fall Fest every fall. It's usually in October. It's a 3-day event. It's here on campus, and it's filled with workshops with professors. It's filled with lots of networking opportunities with students and just fun things to do as well. Usually we'll go to a sporting event, there's a dinner, just lots of great and fun things to do to get to know one another. So again, there's ways for you to get involved. There's events to participate in. And I think the main thing to understand is the way that you can connect with not just other students, but with anybody really within the Penn Engineering community. We have a Slack workspace, a Slack network that you would be involved with. So you'd be communicating with other students on Slack. There's a channel for just about everything. So every course has a Slack channel, which you would be involved with. There's Slack channels based on geographic locations, and sometimes that develops into in-person study groups. People meet on a geographic Slack channel. They meet each other there, and before you know it, they're meeting to do study groups and whatnot. There's also student LinkedIn groups. There's the ed discussion boards that Professor Farmer talked about. So again, these are just some of the resources that you will have available at your fingertips so that you can be involved in a very, very robust community. And next we have, oh, there we go. So I just wanted to spend, Professor Farmer talked a lot about teaching assistants. There is lots and lots of student support in the MCIT world. Of course, teaching assistants are just one of the areas. We also have what's called a teaching and learning practicum, and that's really kind of like an extension of teaching assistants, but it's for those individuals that are not living within the United States. And they can get involved in the teaching and learning practicum. We also have academic coaches. Academic coaches is a little bit of a twist on a teaching assistant. They maybe are not necessarily directly involved with the curriculum of the course, but it's more of like getting through the course and giving you hints. And just kind of like, I've been through it too, and just like a little bit of maybe a shoulder to lean on, but they coach you with getting through the course, maybe not always from an academic standpoint, and academic help. So lots of different areas where you're getting support, especially in those first few courses when you're really trying to kind of get the feel and the rhythm going there. The thing to also mention is these are great ways for you to get involved. You might want to become a teaching assistant, or you might want to be part of the teaching and learning practicum. These are other vehicles for you to get involved and to also learn and to meet other people as well. And then we already talked about office hours and all that good stuff, but just lots of different ways and lots of different resources to make sure that you're all set up for success is really what it's all about. And then, of course, I want to spend some time on the application. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see all of our dates and deadlines, but I can't believe that we are less than a month away from our early application deadline. I want to explain one key point about deadlines. There really is no difference between the early application and the regular application deadline. The biggest difference has to do with the scholarship. So if you are intending to apply for the Dean's Master's Scholarship, which is only available to U.S. citizens and U.S. permanent residents, but if you're intending to apply to the scholarship, you must submit for March 3rd. You must submit for early deadline. That's the only time that you can apply to the scholarship is for our early application round. If you're not applying to the scholarship, then you have all the way until May to submit your application. The regular application deadline is in May. So you can take more time if you need more time to make sure that the application is as best as it possibly can be. If you look at the right-hand side of the screen, those are all of the elements that you need for the application. You're going to need to upload a resume. You're going to need to upload a personal statement. We need every unofficial college transcript. We do not need official transcripts at the point of application, but we do need unofficial college transcripts for every school that you attended where you received credits and grades. Really, really important. We receive a lot of transcripts where there's transfer credits on the transcript, and then we have to hunt people down for those transcripts. So make sure it's every school that you've attended that you've received grades and credits for. We also require letters of recommendation. You need to have 2 letters submitted, but we strongly urge that you seek out 3 recommenders. This is the only element that's somewhat out of your control. You are relying on the recommender to get this element in on time. Letters of recommendation, as well as all of the other application elements, are due by deadline. So it's really important to kind of remind your recommender if you're looking to get this all in for early deadline on March 3rd, then you want to start reminding and giving your recommenders those deadlines so that they know when they have to have it in by. And if it were me, I'd probably pad it and give it a February date so that you have some time for it to trickle in if necessary. The last 2 elements that you see on there, the GRE and the English Language Proficiency Test. The GRE is optional. We do not require a GRE. But Professor Farmer did mention that it could be a great tool if you need it to prove quantitative ability. Okay, so it's basically a tool for you if you need it, but it's not. There's plenty of applicants that get in this program without a GRE, and there's a lot of applicants that get in with the GRE. It just depends on what your transcript and what your overall application looks like. And then English language proficiency, that is going to be required if you are not a U.S. citizen, U.S. permanent resident, and if English is not your primary language, you will need to submit test scores for English language proficiency. We accept IELTS, TOEFL, and Duolingo, and it can be waived if you graduated, if you have a degree from a university where English was the primary language that was taught. Okay, so quickly went over the application elements. We are happy. Come to a coffee chat and we can really dive into those elements, or email us or come to office hours if you have specific questions about the application elements. And then just lastly, before we turn it over to questions, there's a lot of individuals that they start with MCIT and they kind of use it as a stepping stone to go into other areas. So we do have a dual degree program with our AI program and our DS program. So for those of you who are, say, interested in AI, but you do not have that computer science undergraduate degree that's needed, you can start with the MCIT program when you're in your last semester. You can apply to the AI program or the DS program as part of our dual degree program. You need a certain grade point average, which I believe is a 3.5. But if you have the 3.5, you complete the abbreviated application. You won't have to go through a full application like you're working on right now. And then if accepted, 4 courses from MCIT will count for that second degree. So you're going to bring 4 courses with you to that second degree, leaving you with only 6 more courses to receive either the AI degree or the DS degree. So that's a great opportunity if you're looking in those other areas, but you're not quite qualified to apply to those other areas. If you're not looking for a complete degree the second time around, you can also look into our certificates. We have a data science certificate, we have an artificial intelligence certificate, and it's another angle for you to say, take more electives after you complete the MCIT program. You can go the route of also obtaining degree of certificates rather. So lots of different pathways from the MCIT program as well. Okay, so what we're going to do, I know I saw a lot of questions coming through through the chat, Tom. So let's take a look at what we have here, and we will get some questions answered for you now. So it looks like we had a lot of questions first off, and I know you talked a lot about quantitative ability, but we have a lot of questions about, what courses demonstrate quantitative ability. Do hard science courses count towards proof of quantitative ability? So can we talk a little bit about that whole quantitative ability?
Yeah, it's really just to make sure of your ability to reason and that you'll be, comfortable in the courses that we have. So, I mean, we're always looking for the most basic of math course for us is a course in algebra, at least algebra, because at the college level. Um, Mainly because, with algebra, you'll be prepared for our mathematical foundations of computer science course. So that's kind of our biggest one. We also kind of look at how recently you've taken the course. If it was, like 10 or 15 years ago, that might be a little too much time. And so, I mean, if sometimes people ask me, what's a good way to prepare, I still have time, before my application is due. It can't hurt anything to take a course in in algebra, maybe at a community college, or there might be some online version of it. That's a good place, to go for that background. Alternatively, certainly we have the MCIT Online MOOCs, and so there's a lot of prep there. I don't know if it's a good one to have in your application, certainly, especially if you haven't had any, algebra or math courses in a that's a good place to sort of ease into it a little bit. I think that helps, but it may not just be enough to have just completed the MOOCs. But Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong on that one. If
Yeah,
you feel
yeah, that's a
one way
great.
or the other on that. But also, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a great point. So in admissions, what we usually say is we talk about, you know, I usually like to tell applicants that algebra, and a lot of times we're seeing calculus because so many of our
Yeah,
applicants are taking calculus in college, college level calculus. And of course, to take calculus, you have to have algebra in order to pass, to get through the calculus. So a lot of times we're seeing that too. I always say the MOOCs are great, whether you're taking the problem solving, computational. Why can't I think of the name of the course? But
I was getting
yeah.
along
Oh
myself,
my
but go
goodness.
ahead. Yeah.
Or the specialization in Python and Java. That's another great MOOC to take. But it may not be enough to push the applicant over the bar for quantitative ability. I think it depends what else is on the transcript. Also, keep in mind that we do look at every quantitative course. So all quantitative courses and grades are on the application when we're looking at it. That's kind of the review process. But like Professor Farmer said, the course that's really relative to computer science is going to be that algebra or the calculus because so many people are taking the calculus.
I mean, like you said, all the courses you've ever had that we think have a quantitative component, we're factoring that into your application. If you've taken a physics course or things like that, that you think are like a high level chemistry course, things that definitely demonstrate that you would have probably had to have had algebra to do well in those courses. And certainly it kind of, informs us of the way that you think a bit, and that'll help you in computers in this program.
For sure, for sure. The other area that we're getting questions has to do with, giving my existing certifications in technology. Would pursuing these certifications potentially make me overqualified for MCIT? And additionally, how can these certifications complement the MCIT program? So I think there's a lot, we always get a lot of questions, they have all these certs,
Mhm.
how does that work in and does it make them overqualified? And again, these are not for credit certificate, they're not for credit
Right.
courses. Yeah,
Yeah, I think the one thing that might like overqualify you if you're worried about it, we generally don't accept people with degrees in computer science because the program is truly geared for people that don't have a degree in computer science. So if we accept a bunch of people with computer science degrees, then it would just be a terribly unfair advantage for those people. So for folks like that, we encourage them to apply for, a traditional computer science master's degree program. But that's the one thing that sort of overqualifies you. But if you have a background where you kind of taught yourself computer science, and you've moved into a career and you're kind of doing computer science type work, that doesn't overqualify you. We think that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't mean you have to have that. It's just saying if there are things you think might overqualify you, there's very little that would. Yeah, I think, trying to think of other things. Maybe you took boot camps or things like that. That's great. There's no harm in that, and certainly not required at all. But like that would never qualify you for our program. So yeah, things that are like certifications you might have. Maybe you're like a network engineer from, you have something from Cisco. Those things will not overqualify. You're in good shape there. But certainly just the biggest thing that overqualifies is a degree in computer science. So that's as much as I can think. Do you think, Jackie, anything else?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I always say it almost seems like we have like almost like three buckets of students, like we have or applicants. We have those applicants that absolutely don't have any computer science background, but they have the quantitative ability, they're a good fit, and they work in a different industry. Maybe they're not in the tech industry. Then you have those applicants that are self-taught, like you mentioned. So they did some boot camps or MOOCs or whatnot. They're self-taught, they're in the tech industry, but they find themselves that they're not able to like grow or advance in their industry, and they come to us for that formal degree. They come to MCIT to upskill, to get that formal training so that they can move forward in the tech industry. And then you have those other applicants that perhaps are coming right out of undergrad, that they did a different degree in undergrad and they want that computer science now. So they might come to us right out of undergrad too, and they really haven't even started their careers. So there's different avenues, for coming to MCIT and for reaching your goals. But I think you could be self-taught, but this is still good for you. And the only way to be overqualified is to have that degree in computer science or lots of computer science courses. For
That's
sure.
good.
And then we have a question about specifically about 5920, and I guess it says, how does 5920 compare to an undergraduate discrete math course?
That's a hard one to say. It's definitely remember all the courses here are geared towards folks that don't have, a degree in computer science. So it's going to ease you in a bit more than maybe an undergraduate course for a student that's like majoring in computer science. So it wouldn't sort of hit as hard as quickly. It's, definitely reviewing and considering all the fundamentals that you would have needed and sort of educating on that in the first couple of weeks. And then, going from there, once we're kind of sure that everybody in the class sort of now is on the same, footpath, coming from all those different backgrounds, then we kind of pick up on the main material of the course. And it would be definitely, you would get the same thing out of as the undergraduate course, but it just wouldn't be as like heavy starting out. And so I think in that way it's very doable. Plus, we're very much aware that people are coming at different stages of their career. So maybe you haven't had math in, a little while, or, it's just been a minute. And so it's in that way, it's equivalent in what you'll get out of it, but it's not as heavy duty a hit as an undergraduate version of the class.
Yeah, for sure. And we definitely have to take into consideration that people are coming from all different types of backgrounds. I mean, we have, teachers, musicians, people, name it. So it's all over the board. So that's a big factor for sure. And then we also have a question here. This is actually a question that has to do with timing. It says, as a working professional, I've had some difficulty being able to leverage the time outside of work and family. Could you go into more detail about the learning modules are structured compared to conventional academic institutions? And what does the time management look like?
Sure. No, it's tough. It depends on, how much you're working, right? If you're if you're swamped with work and you're doing an 80-hour week, that's a heavy week. Certainly I wouldn't recommend you would do like 3 courses at a time. The nice part about the program is very flexible in that way. You can take one course at a time and just take your time with it. If you took one course each semester, that's 3 courses a year. You could have it done in 3 years, basically. There might be one semester where you just double up for a minute, but in terms of pacing yourself through the program, that's definitely it's geared towards you. The other thing is, as I mentioned, the individual courses themselves are structured in such a way that it really is designed for people that have not as much time, as you did in undergraduate, where you have a real job. Maybe it's more like 40 hours a week, but it could be a lot more. But yeah, so they're structured in such a way that, like I said, there's weekly lecture assignments. You'll want to watch these X number of lectures, but the lectures themselves, as I said, are sort of chunked up, broken into the topics, that they cover, and they can be from like 5-minute segments to 10-minute segments, to get you, the material that you need for that week. Certainly, you can just look through the slides. If you say, I don't have time to watch the videos, the slides are always made available to you. Certainly, you have the textbook, so if you kind of feel like you're an in-person, a self-taught sort of person and don't require, lectures, then, by all means, that's definitely an avenue to go through. Homework in different classes ranges, and so it's different courses have more homework than another, just like in your undergraduate experience, you had some courses that are really heavy and some are not. um, I think the good part about it is the community of students and the advisors can certainly help you navigate that, to say, well, which one is like lots of work and which should I save for a particular semester. We really want to work with you for that. You're not just on your own, which is very traditional in graduate school, where it's like, good luck and you'll never see your advisor. That's not how this program works. We want you to come and see your advisor often. We want to help, guide you through these courses in terms of finding just the right path. But yeah, some courses, it's that work-life balance is always tricky when you're in school. I have a lot of students kind of just dedicate like Sunday, and they kind of just do the whole week in a day. I don't know that that's the best way to do it, but certainly, it depends. Your schedule is going to demand some students are more comfortable, spreading things out. I've had some students, they just listen to the lecture on their commute. Some people commute on the train. That's great for them. Some people commute in their car and they just listen to it as if it's a podcast. I think that's a little tricky, but there's lots of different kind of learners out there. And I think we have enough, styles in each course to sort of suit, your learning style. So
Yeah,
I
for
hope.
sure. I really think that is the beauty of the program. There is a group I know, on Slack. There's a group called the Turtles, the Turtle Club, and those are students that take the one course a semester. And they take one course a semester. They have this Slack channel. They all support each other. So, that's another thing to think about as well. And we give you 5 years. I mean, we give students 5 years to complete the program. So you definitely can do, one course, 2 courses a year is really all it
Yeah,
takes,
you absolutely could.
to get it done in 5. The other thing to keep in mind, our students tell us that one course takes, you need to make sure you're carving out 15 to 18 hours per week for one course. Seems to be the magic number. So if you work on that 15 hours, if you go back and look in our library, and we have videos, or webinars rather, with current students, and there's one that talks about time management. And this one student talked about, like, before the program started, like, he sat down with his family and said, like, this is what I have to do, and I need these amount of hours per week. And they kind of carved it into the calendar, and that was like a little bit set in stone, that like this student wasn't bothered, so to speak, in those hours that they all kind of predetermined. So, I think it's sometimes you got to get other people involved too, that are important in your life, and kind of come up with a plan too. So it's very doable. But I think you kind of have to think about it. If you've got a lot going on, it's definitely something that you want to plan out. And I'm going to be honest, that is a question on the personal statement. So that is one of the questions on the personal statement, is how do you plan to carve out that extra time for the program? So it is important to think about. So great question for sure. And then we did have a bunch of questions on how this degree compares to IT. Like, a bunch of questions. How does the CS degree or the MCIT degree compared to an IT degree? Like, I think the idea is the MCIT degree going to be perceived as a IT degree versus a CS degree?
No, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I think of course, the name MCIT, it's hard to not think, oh, it's IT. But honestly, it's more computer science than it would be IT specific. So, in an IT type program, they're really teaching you a lot about, the infrastructure of computing, right? Like architecting different server configurations. It's really more about the environment of computing, where in our degree and even in a traditional computer science master's degree program, it's all about computer science. So we're really trying to teach you like what is inside a computer. How does this thing work? And then teach you how to program, to that computer, but then also, the mathematical underpinnings of it. So it really is more closely aligned to a computer science degree than any kind of IT degree would. And then how it's perceived outside of, our world, outside of Penn, competitively with other degrees. I think it's fair to say that it's pretty competitive with a regular computer science degree. At least that's been our experience from students going out, getting jobs, and us writing letters of recommendation and serving as recommenders for folks. I think MCIT has been established enough at a lot of different places of employment, that they're well aware of what our degree is, and that it is much closer to computer science, and that it really was geared towards folks that didn't have that background, but brings them up to full speed in computer science. So I think, you know, that's not something to be feared, in the sense you're not wasting your time, and you're not getting a degree that, that wouldn't be competitive.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, our students are well prepared, and they can handle the technical interviews, and the outcomes are good, and that would be another thing. I would recommend anybody that has questions about that to go onto our website under the career services and student resources, and at the bottom of that page is our outcomes, and take a look at our outcomes, because you'll be able to see what our students are doing. Um, After they graduate, for sure. All right, so we are going to have to wrap this up because we only have 2 minutes left. Great questions, everyone. Super job. But let me go into what happens after the webinar if you have questions. So if the webinar is over and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I could have asked another 5 questions, I forgot. So this is what you're going to do. Go to our website, go to our FAQ database, and we have tons of questions and answers in there. So hopefully you'll be able to find your question there. If not, come to office hours. These are one-on-one appointments. They're in like 15-minute time slots. All of our admission counselors have office hours. We have them, I think, almost every day of the week, including evenings and weekends. So please sign up for office hours. Additional events. We have another webinar next week. It's our MSEDS webinar. So if you're interested in data science, and you have you have the computer science background, come see us at that webinar, or join us for a coffee chat. We have a coffee chat tomorrow. I forget what time it's at. I'm sorry, but go to our events page with this QR code. I'll get you to, and come talk to us during that coffee chat tomorrow. And we actually have, I think, 2 coffee chats every week until that March 3rd deadline. So that coffee chats are a great way to come and ask your questions, and also to hear what other people are asking. And then our email address is down there on the bottom of the screen. We do our best to get back to everyone within 24 hours. So please email us. We love to hear from our applicants, and it's our job to help you. So please, please reach out to us if you have questions. But again, thanks so much for being here today. You were great questions. Hopefully you got all of those questions answered, and we were able to help you out with all of the details. Tom, thanks so much for being with us today. It's always fun. Thank you.
Always, thank you for having me, Jackie. Thank you everyone for coming today and having me. I really appreciate the time.
All right, have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye, everyone.